Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing well. A preview of UFC Fight Night, Imavov versus Borralho. We're basically just going to talk about the main event of this card. Because in this fight, we will see a winner and we will probably see the next guy to face Khamzat Chimaev. And I don't necessarily want to say it, but bonus points for speaking your mind. We'll probably see the next guy lose against Khamzat Chimaev. Because unfortunately, I think Khamzat beats either one of these men. Okay, I think if Khamzat has his first title defense, 4.5 years from now, I think whether it is Nassourdine Imavov or Caio Borralho, I think Khamzat beats both of them. Now, obviously not at the same time, but I do think that regardless of who wins, I think Khamzat would beat whoever wins in this matchup. And if we talk about who might genuinely be a threat to Khamzat, I think more emphasis will be on the Fluffy versus Rhaenyra fight. Because I do think that's what it's gonna take for someone to actually beat Khamzat Chimaev. We're gonna need someone who has credentials in grappling, who is a solid grappler. Either Anthony Hernandez or Rhaenyra, both men could hold their own against Khamzat. Be comfortable if they end up on their back because they have really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Now Rhaenyra probably has better jiu-jitsu. Fluffy probably has better grappling. So I do think that if we want to see a legitimate test for Khamzat Chimaev, it would come out of the winner of Rhaenyra versus Fluffy Hernandez. Now I could be wrong. Please God, let me be wrong. But that's just my take. I think Khamzat goes through Nassourdine Imavov or Caio Borralho, but I do think that he might struggle against Anthony Hernandez or Rhaenyra. Now, who has the best chance of beating Khamzat Chimaev between Imavov and Borralho? You could probably make a case for both. Now, you couldn't make a good case for both, but you can do what you want. You can make a solid argument for both. I'm leaning towards Nassourdine Imavov. I do think that he has a better chance at beating Khamzat Chimaev. And the reasons why, he has fought higher level competition inside the UFC, and that makes a massive, massive difference. He has fought the likes of Roman Dolidze, Brendan Allen, obviously Jared Cannonier, knocked out Izzy. And those are big names. For a guy that is ranked, I think he's ranked number 1 or number 2 inside of the middleweight division right now. Those are as good of victories as you could probably have. Now, the Dolidze one is kind of under a microscope after what we saw when Roman fought Fluffy, where Fluffy basically just handled him like his younger sibling and just basically ragdolled Roman Dolidze. But at the time, Nassourdine's victory over Roman Dolidze was impressive, right? We can't just take a win, look at it now, and basically decide, what it's like, what the legitimacy of that win is right now. We have to take it in the moment when it happened. And if we look at Caio Borralho, he has beaten names that you would expect a top contender to beat, right? He has beaten the likes of Jared Cannonier, Arbus Magomedov, Paul Craig. So you would expect someone like Caio Borralho to beat those guys if he is a legitimate contender within the middleweight division. And with his last performance over Jared Cannonier, it was almost a year, it was more than a year ago. And in that fight, even though he looked impressive, looked dominant, he could have finished Jared Cannonier on multiple occasions. And the fact that he didn't, it's somewhat, it kind of gives me, makes me hesitate, or rather makes me reluctant to pick Caio Borralho. Especially having your opponent in those type of situations, you would expect someone to finish them if it is on multiple occasions. Now, it is Jared Cannonier, right? So if you want to finish Jared, then you basically need a sledgehammer, or in Nassourdine Imavov's case, a bad stoppage. But you would like to see fighters dominate their opponents and basically take advantage, capitalize on that dominance. Because if they don't, you never know what can happen, right? You can be on top in 1 minute, 1 round, it flips on its head, and all of a sudden you wake up and your opponent is busy celebrating. So that is troublesome for Caio Borralho, but he is really good. And also the reason why I think Nassourdine has a better chance at beating Khamzat is the fact that I think he is more well-rounded. I think with regards to his grappling is probably better than Caio's. I think with regards to his striking, I'd say that they're somewhat even, but if I had to give an advantage, probably give it to Nassourdine Imavov. His timing, and if he fights Khamzat, if he beats Caio Borralho, ends up fighting Khamzat will have to be more technical with regards to his wrestling entries, right? It won't be like when he fought Dricus. Now, even though Dricus has everything that goes for him, Dricus isn't as technical, in a fundamental way. So Khamzat was able to basically just shoot from anywhere, be lazy, and take Dricus down. With regards to Nassourdine's footwork, with regards to his movement, his sophisticated striking, I don't think Khamzat will be able to do that. If Khamzat shoots, it will probably be, setting it up with his strikes, maybe feinting, see what Nassourdine is gonna do, and then basically shoot. So I don't think he'll be able to be lazy about it. And I do think with regards to cardio, we'll probably see Nassourdine Imavov be somewhat able to tire out Khamzat Chimaev, because that is the name of the game. If you want to beat Khamzat, you have to make him tired. And if you're a Khamzat fan, and these people saying that, well, the myths surrounding his cardio got debunked, it didn't. It did not get debunked, because in Khamzat's fight against Dricus, he basically didn't expend any energy whatsoever for 25 rounds. 25 rounds. That would be for 25 minutes. Basically took Dricus down, was on top, and then waited out the round. Now, you can say that he threw punches. I'd basically say that he was playing with Dricus's face. When he had his back, he was basically just, toying with his face. I don't even think you can count that as punches. Laid on top of Dricus when he had his back, so all of his weight was on Dricus. Didn't expend any energy whatsoever. He threw knees at Dricus's ass, and I think you and I would be able to do that. Now, I don't think we would get Dricus in that situation, but if you ask me to throw those knees for 25 minutes, be able to do it for an hour. Okay, that's not expending any energy. We haven't seen Khamzat stand up on multiple occasions, actually face resistance when he wants to take someone down at middleweight. And I do think Nassourdine Imavov will be able to stand up, because he is going to get taken down. But I do think that he will probably be able to stand up and in some way make Khamzat tired, more so than Caio Borralho. But if you think Caio has a better chance, you could make that argument. I don't think it's as solid of an argument, but Caio Borralho has actually sparred with Khamzat Chimaev, has felt that power, has seen his tendencies, has actually been there inside of a setting, whether it was in a cage or on a mat, doesn't matter, and has actually felt Khamzat Chimaev's power. So he would probably be more accustomed to expecting whatever Khamzat's going to throw at him, which is an advantage, right? It is a massive advantage. He knows what to expect. He has faced Khamzat in sparring. Now, you could say that sparring and the real thing, it's not the same, but you pick up on tendencies, you pick up on someone's habits, and you could basically have a training camp, and all of the information you gathered when you sparred with him, you could have that in your training camp and really, really put a focal point on what you want to do when you prepare for Khamzat Chimaev. So I do think that is an advantage for Caio Borralho. I don't think it's enough. That's why I'm leaning towards Imavov having an advantage if he fights Khamzat Chimaev over Caio Borralho. But at the end of the day, I don't think either man would be able to beat Khamzat. Now, it would be a godsend if I'm wrong. Yeah, it would be insane. I might shoot one up tonight, just the please. But I don't necessarily think either man would be much of a challenge. I do think that this fight is going to be insane. Listen, I'm going to watch this fight. Undivided attention would be on this fight because I do think it's going to be a really, really good fight. I think we have two high level guys in striking. Both men do have grappling as well. Both men use it in their fights. We saw it when Caio Borralho fought Arman Petrosian. We saw it when Nassourdine Imavov fought Edmund Shabazian. When he fought, who did he beat after Edmund? Can't remember. Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. Oh, fought Joaquin Buckley, also uses grappling in that fight. And yeah, I think we're going to see something of everything. I think we're going to see this fight play out on the feet. I think we're going to see it play out on the ground. And it's going to be interesting to see who wins this fight. Both men have power. Both men are sophisticated strikers. I mean, Nassourdine Imavov knocked out Israel Adesanya in a way we have never seen before in a mixed martial arts setting. Now, we saw Izzy get TKO'd when he fought Alex Pereira, but we basically saw him out on his feet. We didn't see him get flatlined. We did when he fought Alex in Glory, but we didn't see it in a mixed martial arts setting. Nassourdine Imavov's second round, 30 seconds in, lands a devastating punch straight and drops Israel Adesanya, finishes the fight. Right? Nassourdine is really good, has great striking, has power, and the same applies to Caio Borralho. So I do think this fight is going to be insane. I do think it's going to be a blockbuster fight. Really excited for it. It's going to have my undivided attention, right? Cindy Sweeney won't be able to distract me if I watch this fight. But I don't see a threat to Khamzat's reign when I look at this fight. When I look at Reinier de Ridder versus Fluffy, I can genuinely see both men giving Khamzat problems. Reinier with his massive stature. He's a big guy. He has really good wrestling, has knees up the middle, something that is a threat for a wrestler, right? You can't just shoot recklessly because you might eat something up the middle. It's not a salad. And with regards to Fluffy, his grappling is really good. Who's the guy Anthony Hernandez fought? It's also in the middleweight division. Give me a moment. But really, I want to say Rodolfo Vieira. No. Yeah, I think it is. When Fluffy fought Rodolfo Vieira, Rodolfo, who has all of the credentials you could ever want as a grappler, and Anthony Hernandez was able to tire him out and choke him out, which is insane. So, I think with regards to Fluffy, with regards to Reinier, both men could genuinely be a threat to Khamzat. I think both men would be comfortable on their back, won't panic. I don't see Khamzat subbing either one of them. Now, he might get to a crucifix, and then we would know what would happen. But I think it's going to be way more difficult for Khamzat to get into those positions. But if he fights Nassourdine Imavov or Caio, I do think that he would, with relative ease, get into those positions. And yeah, that's just my preview for UFC Fight Night. I think it's going to be insane. Nassourdine Imavov is currently ranked number 1 or 2 inside the middleweight division. Caio Borralho is ranked number 7. And Caio is undefeated within the UFC. Part of the Fighting Nerds, which it is insane. Also have Mauricio Rufy fighting in the co-main. So it's a big event for the Fighting Nerds. But I do think Caio has a massive disadvantage heading into this fight. And a couple of reasons why. So he was the backup fighter for Khamzat versus Dricus. In case one of those two gentlemen pulled out, then Caio Borralho would have pulled in. Right? And that means he had to cut weight. He had to actually make weight. So this will be the second time that he has to make weight in 21 days. That is a tall task, for anyone. It really drains you. It takes a lot out. And I don't know how active he's been training, but having to make weight twice within 3 weeks is it's gonna take its toll, right? And that is a problem. I do think that is a problem. Also take into consideration traveling. So went from Brazil to Chicago to be the backup fighter for that fight. Now moves from Chicago or back to Brazil and flies to Paris. So that is a lot of traveling with regards to Caio Borralho within the last 3 weeks, that could also play a factor, play a role. I just think that Nassourdine will be better prepared. It's in his home country, and yeah, no traveling, no cutting weight. Basically, just been training and getting ready, fight camp, getting ready for this fight. I think he'll be better prepared. It's very tough to see Kyle win this fight. I do think that is why Nassourdine is a favorite in this fight. So yeah, I probably I'll drop my predictions tomorrow, but yeah, massively leaning towards Nassourdine Imavov. I do think he is genuinely good, and it would have been insane to see Nassourdine versus the likes of Dricus, but it is very difficult when we have a champion who is this dominant in one aspect of mixed martial arts, and that aspect being wrestling really makes it difficult for an opponent to genuinely have a chance, right? When you have a striker, and even though he is a dominant striker, whenever a fight plays out on the feet, anything can happen at any moment, right? As good of a striker as you might be, you might eat an overhand Dan Henderson like thing, and then wake up with your uncle giving you a back rub. But if you are a wrestler, and you take your opponent down and you're that dominant in wrestling, right? The risks of losing drops significantly. You're not in danger when you're on top. You might be, but it's extremely difficult for guys with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, to actually submit you from the ground, especially if you have good top control, have good pressure, land your shots. It's just way less of a risk being a dominant wrestler over a dominant striker. And yep, Dricus versus Imavov would have been insane. I think Khamzat versus Imavov or Dricus versus Borralho would have been insane. But Khamzat versus either one of those, I think it might be the same thing. I think we might end up seeing the same thing out of Khamzat until he faces a legitimate grappler, a really good grappler. If he fights strikers, we might see history repeat itself time after time after time. We might see him basically just take his opponent down, wet blanket them, and win the fight. He doesn't have to take risks because he doesn't need to, right? It's not gonna happen as much as it did in his fight against Dricus, where he got stood up by Mark Goddard on multiple occasions. All right, I think the UFC probably spoke to Mark Goddard afterwards and told him, listen, I probably can't have this, right? You can't have you standing someone up. Now, as a fan, yeah, I would probably enjoy seeing fighters get stood up way more than they do because of this wet blanket style. But I can't criticize Hamza. It's the first time we actually saw him do this. But we do see a lot of fighters. I don't want to point any fingers, but we do see a lot of Dagestani wrestlers and people from the Caucasus who have this wet blanket style where they basically just wrestle their opponents, takes them down, and then lies on top of them, don't take any risks, don't improve on their position, and basically just lie out the round and win the fight. And that is atrocious. That is not fighting. And if you say, well, if I want to watch striking, I should watch Muay Thai. If you want to watch grappling, then go watch grappling. Because that's not mixed martial arts either. So your argument is dog shit, right? It's the ultimate fighting championship. It's not the ultimate containing championship. You're not there to take down your opponent and basically wet blanket them. Okay, that's why I don't have a problem with Islam Makhachev, with Khabib, right? People that take their opponents down, they're extremely dominant, and they finish the fight. They take risks. They try and look for a submission. They expend energy. They try and ground and pound their opponents. It's not the same. Okay? That is mixed martial arts. Just wrestling is just wrestling. There's a difference. But yeah, that's basically it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it. Have a beautiful one. I'll catch you in the next one.